Hey guys, I'm inside Bath, England's very own Guildhall, and I'm here for the Bath Kids Festival to meet Dermot O'Leary. He used to host the UK TV show, which is called The X Factor, which was a musical competition, but sadly came to its end in 2019. And he's also a radio show host on the BBC. And he's also a children's book author, very famous for Toto, the Ninja Cat book series. I'm really hoping that he writes a 6th book. I enjoyed the last 5 installments, and yes, let's see what happens. Okay, we're in one of the halls in the Guildhall in Bath, England, and Dermot O'Leary is about to pop up in about 5 minutes. His event takes place at evening precisely 12 p.m. exactly, and he's going to bring on his book illustrator called Nick East. He did the illustrations for Toto the Ninja Cat, 5 of them in the book series, and hopefully the 6th book as well if it's announced. Yeah, I can't wait to see what they both bring to the table and to the audience in the Guildhall. So yeah, let's do this.
Welcome to the Bath Children's Literature Festival. Thank you for coming today. My name is Fritha Lindquist and I am the programmer for the Children's Festival. I also work in children's publishing, so I get to read loads of children's books for my job. How lucky am I? I've also got 3 children, so we read loads of children's books together, and some of our favourite books are books that feature animal characters. So I'm really delighted to be here today with our special guest. So our first guest today is Nick East. He's an illustrator and author, and he worked for a long time as a museum and theme park designer. He's written and illustrated many books, from picture books to stories for children about your age, including this fantastic one here. Our second guest is Donna O'Leary. He is a radio and TV presenter. He's got a regular show on BBC Radio 2. He's got a podcast called People Just People, where he's interviewed loads of famous people. But you might know him best from The X Factor, which he presented for many years. Dermot's written stories since he was a kid. More on this later, I'm sure. And now he's got his own series of children's books illustrated by Nick, the Toto the Ninja Cat books, based on a true story, apparently. What a multi-talented pair. Please join me in welcoming Nick East and Donna O'Leary.
How are we all? Hello. Thanks for that.
No worries. Can we get the PowerPoint on, please?
What, me?
Oh, sorry, no.
It's above my pay grade. I started well.
So Donna, I mentioned to the audience in the introduction that your books here are based on a true story. Tell us more. Tell us all about it.
On my very own pussycat. Before we start, we have a little straw poll here. Who has, well, I haven't asked the question, you've got your hand up. I can say anything. Who here has a cat? Very strong. Well, just other pets. Who's got dogs? Nice. Who's got dogs and cats? Nice. Okay, let's go a little left field. Who has fish? A lot of fish. Fish popular in Bath. Who has like gerbils or mice or stuff like that? Nice. Just down here. You're dressed as a cat and you've got a gerbil and a mouse. I like your style. Okay, who's got chickens? Wow! Chickens properly represented down here with the 2 guys. Chickens. Are you related? You know each other? Yes. I was going to say, otherwise you'd be like, oh my God, you've got chickens too? That'd be incredible. Is anyone lucky enough to have a horse? No, me neither, don't worry. What about cow? Anyone live on a farm here? Fine, don't worry. I've got 2 cats, and I'd just like to find out what the audience like. What have you got? You just got 1 dog? I've got a cat and I've got a dog. Yeah.
Oh, I've got a dog, but I used to have a cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
We won't go into that. Keep it light. So I've got 2 cats. Well, now I've got 2 cats. We've had 3 cats in the past. My cat's names at the moment are Toto and her little brother, who we adopted from Battersea, a little cat called Socks. We had another cat called Silver. Silver sadly passed away, but Toto and Silver were brother and sister. We adopted them from Italy. We found them in a little olive grove, and they've just been born. I know, look at that! Look at the tortellini!
That's Toto.
That is Toto, yeah. That's when we first got Toto over from Italy. Toto is now 9 years old. She's strong, she's doing really well, but that's when she was a little kid. Now, the thing about Toto, we realised really quickly. Well, my wife realised quite quickly. I just refused to believe it. But Toto has maybe 5% vision, so she's almost 100% blind. So she was kind of bumping into things, and she couldn't see too well. And my wife was saying, I think she might have like problem seeing, and I was like the classic cat dad going, she's absolutely fine, don't worry about it. And poor Toto's bumping into stuff. So we took Toto to the vet, and the vet said, yeah, actually, she doesn't have reading. She doesn't really retina. So the back of the eye, she can't process light. So what she can see is if a bird flies over on a sunny day, or you're playing with a toy or something, she can just make out the movement, so she can still like play around and stuff. But what the vet did say is, he said, you don't need to worry about this because cats always compensate. So how would they compensate? What other senses would cats use? Can I chuck that out there? What have cats got that means they don't need their eyes as much? What about my friend down here? Exactly, yeah, nose, very good. There's three things. The nose is one of them. My friend behind me in the red jacket. Yes, very good. I love the fact also you wear a red jacket. I'm wearing a red jacket, that's me! And what's the last thing you might think of? I forgot it. Whiskers! Right, Indy, very good. So Toto is able to navigate around and map the room, they call it. So if she was here, for example, she'd walk all the way around the room and she'd get the smells and make sure she knew where she was and so forth. And but she did have these incredible reactions and reflexes. So we started calling her our little ninja. And then I just thought, hang on a second, there's a really lovely idea for a book here. This is a long time ago now. So I started writing a few ideas about Toto and how she could, the adventures she might be able to have. And then I quickly realised that by day she had, and now I realise these aren't my ideas, this is what she actually does. By day she hangs around the house and sleeps, and by night she goes out and solves crimes, and she's an international cat ninja. So the story is, this is reality, that she works for Larry, the 10 Downing Street cat. He is head of the international cat ninjas. Now every world leader has an animal to make sure they don't do anything stupid. We all know world leaders are very capable of doing stupid things. So every world leader has an animal, unbeknownst to them, that's put in there by the international cat ninjas to make sure that they don't do anything silly, don't press any big red buttons, through their mantra, purrs, paws and claws. So the purrs normally calm the leader down. If that doesn't work, they have to use their paws. If that doesn't work, they have to use their claws. So when a world leader sees their cat doing something crazy, they think they're just going crazy, but actually they're making sure that they don't start World War III. So Toto has her brother, Silver, her younger brother, Socks, and her best friend, Catface, and they go out and they solve international crimes.
Cool.
Good night!
Good, yeah. I love that photo.
Yeah.
So, Nick, you
Yes.
mentioned you've got a dog and a cat. Being as these books are all about cats, can you introduce who your cat is? Does your cat have any superpowers?
Oh, she's very grumpy.
Is your cat? Is this your cat?
That's Cookie. Yeah, she's nearly as fluffy as Toto.
Yeah.
Really. No, she
Get any work done there.
that's his favourite spot in front of my keyboard, unfortunately. Just where I like to draw. Yeah, she's very good. She's sort of, when she walks in a room, she can be lovely, but you know when she's got attitude and she has this like force field around her and no one will mess. So it's kind of, that could be a superpower, couldn't it? But I think if she was in the Toto book, she'd definitely be, she'd be a super villain, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've just got a little scar on my nose here where she,
But even the thing about cats is they always come whenever you're doing, if I'm doing my work or you guys are doing your, I don't know if you have cats here, if you're doing your homework, or they always end up lying and sitting the exact place you need to work, don't they? I don't know what it is there.
Yeah, you couldn't have got much work done.
No, not really. And then I have a dog called Kirby as well, who's a golden retriever, and he's just lovely and daft.
Oh.
How do they get on?
Very well, actually. I mean, probably Herbie's got this really bad habit. I don't know anyone else who's got dogs. when I take him for a walk, he wants to do a poo in other people's gardens. He's just attracted to other people's gardens and flower beds. And it's not really superpower though, it's highly embarrassing. No one's kind of,
So
no one's familiar with that.
So you mentioned that you've got dogs, and you mentioned some of the other characters in the book, Nick. Dermot, sorry. So it's not just cats in these books. There's a whole host of other animal characters and baddies.
No, the whole animals talk to each other. We just think they kind of go crazy at each other and they bark and they meow and so forth. But there's a whole language going on.
Can you talk us through the different cats?
Absolutely.
We've got some images.
So they have their own tube, for example. So whilst we're in London, whilst we're on the tube, no one ever looks up in London. Everyone looks down because they're terrified of eye contact. But if you did look up, you'd see that there's a host of animals on top that are using the tube as well. That's because years ago, Cornelius Green, who was the captain, Leslie Green, the architect of the tube, snuck in and changed the blueprints. It's explained in the books. It's a true story. So we have Toto, obviously. We have Silver, her brother. We have Socks. We have Catface.
Yep.
So when they first get to London, this is when they first arrived. They've only been here 3 weeks. And in the first book, The Slaker's Gate, they hear this rustling outside, and cats are very territorial. They want to protect their property. So they go out to find this intruder, and it's actually, they're kind of disarmed to find this charming character who looks a bit like a cat, but looks a bit like a rat. His name is actually Alexander Ratnoff the 333rd. Now he is rat royalty. He's from the rats of North London, and he lives sort of 30 metres down. His father is the rat king of North London. There's 5 rat families, and he's the leader of the rats of North London. But he's so charming and debonair that he largely has decided to live his life as a cat. So he lives his life up on the surface. He knows everyone. He's the most experienced raconteur in London. He's in a jazz band. He's a trained lawyer. He's an official London tour guide. So he becomes their best friend. And he shows them around London. I based him on Stephen Fry. That was my brief. And my friend Ollie Pratt, who you don't know, who's lovely. He's very much like that as well. And he's the most charming. But he also is quite hapless, so he ends up getting him into quite a lot of scrapes.
And we've got some more images here. So this is
the first book. So the first book is about the King Cobra of London Zoo. I wanted to call him something like not scary at all, so I tried to find the least scary name I could find, which is Brian.
Are there any Brians in?
Any Brians in the house? No, Brian! No. Well, I looked up, there was a story, I used to live near the zoo, and there was a story of loads of quite small snakes, but escaping the zoo and sort of living by the canal. And I thought this was a good idea. So I looked up the most venomous snake in London Zoo is the King Cobra. I thought, well, hang on, what if the most venomous snake, rather than this kind of these relatively harmless snakes, escape the zoo? But it's all not what it seems. So Brian escapes the zoo, and the whole of animal population of London go crazy because they think he's going to come and eat them all. But actually, Brian has escaped ulterior motives. In the first book, Toto has to go and track him down.
And you made him look quite sinister there, Nick.
Well, that's me. That's
good.
it.
Yeah.
Don't blame me.
And then we've got some. There's a dog
Let's
there
take
getting ninja action.
Getting stuffed up.
Yeah. And then who's this guy?
Okay. So this chap, I really wanted to create an arch nemesis for Toto, and indeed for Larry, the 10 Downing Street cat. So this young man who comes to the fore in the second book is Toto's nemesis. And this guy is Archduke Ferdinand, and Nick has done this outstanding job of creating this guy.
That moustache.
He's wonderful. He's really one of my favourite characters to write.
Do you like writing about
baddies?
these?
He's wonderful, because he is kind of a baddie, but Archduke Ferdinand trained as a ninja with Larry, the 10 Downing Street cat, so they used to be best friends. And then Archduke Ferdinand came to the very rational conclusion that humans shouldn't be running the world, animals should be running the world. Now the problem with this is that everyone kind of agrees with him, but he goes about kind of like, nefarious and evil ways of trying to conquer the world. So Toto and Larry have to try and stop him. But he's charming, he's the best sword in the whole of Europe, and he used to be Larry's best friend.
Is he based on anyone you know?
No, sadly not, no. But that's the scene from the second book, where Archduke Ferdinand kidnaps every single piece of cheese in the world and he goes missing on the eve of an international peace conference, so Toto has to track him down. And that's the cheese on barges heading out to the north.
Very smelly worms.
Yeah, very smelly.
And I love this one, Nick. You've really captured the.
Oh.
They're giving it to the bad guys there, aren't they?
Certainly are, as usual.
So, Dermot, have you always loved books and reading?
Ever since I was a kid.
What were your favourite books?
Hello. Oh. I don't know who that guy is.
Cutie.
So,
Little Dermot.
ever since I was a baby, ever since I was that, so I guess that's like 2.5, 3 maybe. My dad in particular would always tell me stories. We came in from work and my parents are from Ireland, so he used to tell me loads of old Irish fairy stories. And then the library for me was everything when I was a kid. So we would go on a Saturday morning, my mum worked, my dad would take me and my sister into the local library, and we used to get lost in there. It was wonderful.
Oh,
and then we had a mobile library as well. We used to come around to the little village.
Yeah.
That was really valuable as well. But the library for me was everything, and you know, you get that sort of excitement of getting that book, taking it home, and being able to read it in a week and then bring it back and all of that. So yeah.
What were your favourite books when you were a kid?
When I was very little, the picture books were the Raymond Briggs books. You know, we talked about this before, but Father Christmas, I loved that. You guys must know the Raymond Briggs books, right? So Father Christmas was my favourite one when I was a kid because he turned Father. You know, we all know Father Christmas is so happy and jolly, and Raymond's turned him into a bit grumpy, you know, in his book. So, but I loved that book. And then it's like old, and I got into chapter books. It was you know, Roald Dahl. And you know, Roald Dahl when I was a kid was like David Walliams is now. There were so many books you would read of Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
They were all so different and diverse, and the worlds you created were so wonderful. And Fantastic Mr. Fox's book was
That's your
was
favourite,
always,
yeah.
And you know, we read it about a year ago. It's still so brilliant.
Yeah. Oh. And
What were yours? What were your books?
Favourite books
Yeah,
when we
when
were
you were
kids?
yeah.
Well, I loved Raymond Briggs. I mean, shame we lost him this year as well.
Yeah,
He was
very
one of this country's. I was just the stories were amazing and his illustrations just stunning. But I loved Father Christmas and Snowman. But I really loved Fungus the Bogan. Oh dear,
there's little Nick. Sorry,
it's a
Nick.
bit evil.
That's like your most evil face.
I know. I'm sorry.
So nice to
Haircut. Wish I still had that hair.
What you say, Fungus the Bogan?
Fungus the Bogeyman was my favourite. Has anyone read that one before?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I read that hundreds of times. Oh, it was so disgusting.
Yeah.
There you
Oh,
go.
there we are. And the Asterix books. I absolutely love the Asterix books. I used to collect those. Anybody read the Asterix books? Yeah, quite a few out there. The images were just
So
amazing.
did that inspire you to start drawing from a young
It
age?
did. It very much did. I used to copy the drawings out of the books as well. You know, it was a good way to start, really. I would recommend doing that when you're young, copying artists' work. 'Cause
Did you
it's a
know
big help.
from when you were a kid that you wanted to be an illustrator or
I
work with creating?
I was just always scribbling on something. When I was younger, that picture that had me, I was younger than that when I started drawing. It was on newspapers and magazines and wallpaper. Don't draw on wallpaper. My parents don't.
Every parent in the room said,
Yeah. Got into trouble a few times with that. But I just carried on drawing as an adult. That's what usually happens with children, is that they kind of get drawn away from it for other things. I didn't. I kind of kept on drawing and went into adulthood and then went to art college.
So, and tell us about being a museum and theme park designer. That sounds so exciting.
It's a strange title, isn't it? Museum and exhibition designer. I graduated from art college and went into design, and that's what I started doing. I worked in museums and designing the exhibits. A lot of it was for children, and it was all about telling stories. And then I got the opportunity to work at Legoland in Windsor. Has anyone been there?
Exciting.
And
Who's
I
been to
did-
Legoland here? Hands up. Wow, that's a lot.
Wow, gosh.
So which
What did
rides
you design
do?
at
I got two. I was involved in quite a lot of the rides. Fairy Tale Boat Ride, anyone remember that? Pirate Flume. But then we got to design a lot of the Lego models and displays as well. And the best thing about that job was, before we were allowed to put pen to paper, we were told, you're going to have to play with Lego for 2 weeks to get you in the zone. So we didn't draw anything or do any design work, we just played with Lego. all these grown-ups just playing with Lego, but all these kids in and we just built and played.
That
Best
sounds
job
like
in the
a
world.
brilliant
Well, apart from the
Apart
stage.
from
Whoops.
And what about you, Dermot? Have you always written, did you start writing stories when you were a
Yeah,
kid?
my dad brought a computer home when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I did two things. It was really kind of this really old computer that worked getting sort of, you know, kind of an old Mac,
Yeah.
black and white thing. And I did two things. I deleted all of his work for work by accident. And this is way before he used to back anything up. I was just pressing buttons, and then you know, one of the buttons obviously said delete everything. And I pressed yes. I was very young, I didn't mean to. I remember telling him he was so cool about it. God, I love it. And then, but it meant that he also had to work from home, so it meant that he had paper, and so it meant that I could write. So it meant I had sort of A4 paper. So I started writing these terrible detective novels. But I loved them, and they're really like, you know, the first page was really detailed, and then I sort of
And trailed off.
yeah. And I used to go around our local estate that I lived and just charge 5p for them, and just knock on our neighbour's door. And obviously, everyone knew everyone where I grew up. It was lovely, and so they'd just give me 5p to sort of shut me up, really, and then just go off and get enough for an ice cream. I was very happy. I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. So that was your first experience
Yeah.
of writing your own stories. Oh, lovely. So back to the books. We've got 5 books in the series.
Yep.
This is the new one, Toto the Ninja Cat and the Legend of the Wild Cat. So really briefly, for those people in the audience who maybe don't know the series, you can read any of them as a standalone, by the way. That's
Yeah.
true, isn't it? You don't need to read them in order. But could you really quickly, without doing any plot spoilers, sort of take us through
100%.
each of them? And we've got some images for the audience to look at as you're
You
chatting.
can definitely read them standalones. I would say that if you read the first one, then you'll be able to get the gist of the others. But the first one explains Toto, Silver, they come to London, they find Catface rooting around in their bins, who having a wonderful night, eating some brie, and some cheese and an old backbone. He takes them around London, charms them, they come back. The whole of North London animals are up in uproar because Brian the King Cobra's escaped from the London Zoo. Catface wants to go up to Edinburgh and see his family, and he wants everyone to leave London. The Toto and Silver convince him to stay, and they trap they have to go to the London Zoo to try and track the cobra down and capture him and make good. But like I said, all is not what it seems, and that's not the reason why Brian has escaped. The second book, Toto, but the first book, by the way, Toto doesn't know that she's an international. She's trained as a ninja, but she's not been recruited yet properly. The second book, she gets, at the very start, she gets a little paw print, a black paw print saying 10 Downing Street. So she goes to 10 Downing Street, she knows that this is her call-up papers, essentially, and she's told that she's the deputy ninja for Larry the 10 Downing Street cat. And she's given her first official mission, which is to track down all this cheese that's gone missing on the eve of an international peace conference. There we go, no cheese. Which is, Silver. I don't know what your cats are like, but my cats absolutely adore cheese. There's Larry, the 10 Downing Street cat, drinking a milk teeny, having a lovely time with Toto and Silver. And he gives them the first mission. They have to go and track down the cheese and make sure it gets back safely. And this is where Archduke Freddy Cat comes in, because he's the one who saved the cheese. The third book, Toto, by now is an established ninja, and life's going very well. She's solved lots of crimes, so Larry gives her the weekend off, and she really just wants to have a nice chill weekend. But Catface gets tickets to the annual Animal Music Festival of Castanbury in the West Country. So she has to go. They go down to Castanbury. That's one of my favourite drawings of Nick Starnes, Castanbury there, and they've got 3 VIP tickets, which they're very excited about. But when they get there, there's a crime that's happening, and Toto has to foil it. The fourth book.
So no relaxing.
No relaxing at all.
No.
The Mystery Jewel Thief is all based around the Tower of London and the House of the Parliament, I guess. And the idea is that the animal crown jewels are in the Tower of London. So like I said, there's a whole world of animal stuff going on, much like our human stuff. Once again, there's a beautiful picture of the Tower of London Nick's done. And the ravens at the tower essentially are their version of the beef eaters, so they guard the animal crown jewels. Now the French ambassador comes over and he wants to go and see them. So Toto is on security detail with her brothers, and they get to the crown jewels and they realise the crown jewels have been stolen. So Larry is framed for the crime, Toto's boss, together with Cyril Corvax, who's the head raven. So they're both essentially sent to the tower, and Toto has to prove her innocence and track down the jewels. That's one of my favourite books. And then the last book.
Oh, we're going to come on to that
Oh,
in a minute.
oh.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that in a minute. I just wanted to talk a bit more about the illustrations. But I was thinking, as you were talking through that, they're sort of crime mysteries, aren't they? So,
Oh, yeah.
So those detective stories you wrote when you were back in the day, really, you know, that set you up.
I love
didn't
a
you?
whodunit. Like,
Yeah,
I love reading crime
whodunit.
fiction. I think we all do, well, no matter what age we are. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I know as a parent reading these books, I love all the puns you put in. It's really funny when you're reading them aloud.
I think the favourite thing is the puns and as you carry on, you're able to develop those characters, and you know that like Catfish will say something silly, or Silver will always try and eat more food than everyone else, or sort of there's that. And the world, I love the world building. I love the fact there's an alternative world where animals are going about their business, and because we're so fixated with our world, we don't
notice. Yeah. And part of that. You're brilliant storytelling, but the illustrations that Nick does really bring that to life. So Nick, how did you develop the illustrations for Toto and Silver? Because obviously this is based on a true story, starring real characters. How did you bring Toto and Silver to life?
Well, initially we worked together on this, but I was sent, not in the first instance, I was sent a synopsis, which is like a shortened version of the story, and some images of the cats. I think it explained the characters a little bit. So I started scribbling away in sketchbooks, and I always keep sketchbooks, that's one of them there. It's actually the wrong sketchbook, it's not got any picture of Toto in it, so I'm very sorry about that. But I have got about 8 of them, so I just picked one up and it was the wrong one. I actually scribbled away there and sent the drawings off to the publisher, and it came back with some comments from Dermot and said, I don't know this cat. This cat doesn't belong to me. And I got the wrong reference, so I had to go back to the drawing board. And then
sketching
we
Toto
started
Silver and Silver's Toto.
That was what it was. I wish I could show you those sketches, but unfortunately I can't. But.
Toto is and always has been quite a podgy cat. So she's sort of shaped like a pear, and she's also very fluffy, yeah? So she's got quite a big bum, and she's got this big ruff, and Silver was even though they're brother and sister, Silver was a very skinny live cat with a massive big bushy tail. And when Nick was drawing, I kept getting these pictures of Toto back. Like, Toto was like kind of muscly and really great shape, and I was thinking, this isn't our cat. And we hadn't met yet, and so it was only then poor Nick realised he was getting sent the wrong pictures.
But then again, you kindly invited me.
Then we came down. So Nick came down and he met the cats and
played with Toto for a bit.
Gets the street and everything. And you've got to come again and see it. You'd love to see it.
So did you? So this street scene, is this based on where Dermot and the cats used to live?
It was, and I wandered down the street taking pictures, kind of getting curtain twitched by the neighbours and everything.
Great man outside.
I think you got some complaints afterwards.
Yeah.
And we've got some more illustrations, because Dermot mentioned earlier that you were talking about the alternate animal world and the animal tube, and I know we've got some illustrations here to show that. So what's this one? What's this place in the book?
Well, this is one of my favourite places. So I sort of bombard poor Nick with these pictures when I'm out and about and I have an idea as to something that could work. And I was by the River Thames in London. I was on the south side of the river looking north. So I was walking along. The Thames is very tidal. So at Blackfriars Bridge is kind of traditionally the cut-off point between where the freshwater starts and the seawater comes in. And the tide had gone out. And I saw I was at the underside of the bridge. And I needed a place where in the evening the cats go for drinks, and the cats and all the animals they love drinking milk. And I wanted this old kind of fashioned, kind of almost naval style, animal pub, a milk bar they call it.
Yeah.
So I came up with this idea of the sour saucer, and the sour saucer was when the old ships used to leave from the docks to go to America or Australia in the New World. They always needed a ship's cat, and to prove that if you were worth your metal, you'd go to the sour saucer and you drink a saucer of sour milk. And if you're able to keep it down and not throw up, it meant that you were okay to be a ship's captain. If you didn't, you had to walk the plank, and it's still going now. So that's where I came up with this idea, and then Nick has just absolutely just like made this come alive. It's this really lovely old kind of
it's
like a gin palace, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots to see. Now we want to talk about the new book, but before we do, I'm just going to really quickly, we've got some of these pictures of
Well, that's the animal tube.
the animal tube, just because they're just so lovely, this world that's been created.
That was the nice thing. I was able to give Nick these ideas and just themes, and then suddenly he'd go away a month later and come back with this. And obviously, you know, when you've written the book, and then suddenly you see a smaller character that doesn't feature in the book, but features in the illustrations. Yeah. Even though I've written the book, I'm looking at it going,
who's that guy?
Who's that guy? It's really interesting.
So the new book, Toto the Ninja Cat and the Legend of the Wild Cat.
Yes.
This came out earlier this year.
Yeah.
So set in Scotland.
Set in Scotland.
Tell us all about it. What's it about? Why wildcats?
I became like really interested in wildcats. I love cats. I became really interested in wildcats. The people in the Highland Park were reintroducing wildcats into the local area, and they're so nice. And I just had this idea of I love the idea of legends, and I had this, you know, and I've got to Scotland quite a lot, and I've got some friends up there, and so I had this idea of what if there's a legendary wildcat, because you know the wildcats are endangered, and they're reintroducing them now back into the wild. There aren't many of them. And I thought, well, what if this wildcat's actually, you know, almost like the last High King or Queen of Scotland? So comes back and has a rightful claim to the throne, and what it would mean for the cat. So Toto has to go up there undercover in an animal correctional facility, like almost like a camp for naughty animals, which is also a true story.
Is that a true story?
Yeah. So my friend James has a really naughty dog called a Parsons Terrier. And this dog was so naughty that James ended up sending him away to boot camp for a week. And he did really well. His name was Dudley, and he did really well up until the last challenge. Poor Dudley had to walk through this kind of fenced off area, but either side were chickens. And he got through, and he was being really good, and then I think he got halfway through and then just went crazy and tried to get tried to go after the chickens. So he failed, and I thought, hang on, what if all naughty animals have to go to this camp? So essentially Toto and her friends have to go up, and Toto's undercover because right now she's quite famous ninja.
Yeah.
So she has to go undercover and see while she's up there, if they can find the wildcat.
The wildcat. Oh, okay.
So even though she's up there, and they have to take part in these series of challenges to prove that they're not naughty, they're very good. All at the same time, she's sort of like trying to keep an eye to see if she can find a wildcat.
So what's her undercover disguise?
Well, disguise is the fact that she's a cat. She Chiddles Braithwaite, I think her name is, and she's a.
That's her at the front.
That's her at the front.
Yeah.
And she's sent up there because she tried to eat the parrot. That she lived with.
It's a good undercover story. Brilliant. I like it. So I think it'd be really nice to have Dermot do a reading from the book. We'd love to hear you, and I think, Nick, you're going to do some live illustration at the same time. So this bit that you're going to read, this is a little bit into the story.
Yeah.
We've heard that Toto has gone to this boot camp undercover, in disguise, and they're on a mission to find, what's the name of the wildcat in the legend?
Felix, which is the
Felix.
Latin name.
Brilliant.
The four of them get tied together. This is the first task they have to prove to see if they can work together as a team before they're able to go home. So Toto, whilst Toto's undercover, they also have to, get through the boot camp. They're all tied together and they have to get up to the top of a mountain and back, yeah? And whilst they're up the mountain, Toto thinks she sees Felix. Now, what are you drawing while this is happening?
Well, I'm going to draw part of that passage.
No way!
Should I give it away?
Yes.
Can I give it away?
No, I didn't think of it away.
No way. I was really interested. Well, I'll try my best.
What's everyone here going to draw while this is happening?
I mean, you can follow me if you want, but we're going to do
gonna
how
do
to
a
draw
draw-along,
Toto
yeah.
just after this. So
Yeah.
just
okay.
sit back and relax.
Nick's
and
gonna,
save yourselves from that.
Nick will draw this scene, and then just afterwards, then we'll do a little masterclass as to how to draw Toto, which is unbelievable.
So yeah, just sit back, relax, and listen to the reading.
So this is the four of them. They have to go to the top of the mountain. Toto's undercover, and they have to try and find this wildcat. So we have to pass the test to even begin to think about going home. Did you see how many animals they've got in here? They've been here for weeks. This test is not going to be a piece of cake. Don't mention cake, my dear boy, said Catface, staring mournfully into his sloppy porridge because the food up there's all. You're right, Auntie Toto. The only way we get out of this is to work together and make sure we get to the summit of that mountain and back, whilst also keeping an eye out for feeders. So eat up and let's get moving. The little gang felt as if they'd been walking for ages before they even reached the foot of the mountain, but the weather had held off and so far they'd made good progress. The mountain path narrowed and grew increasingly steep, and pretty soon their fellow teams started to drop out. The group passed others who were complaining bitterly. It's too much! Even the porridge is better than having to get to the top of this slimming mountain, lamented a small pug who was tied to a sausage dog and a pair of exhausted chihuahuas. Toto could tell that her brothers and Catface were tiring too. They never moaned. They stopped only to drink some water and dunk their heads underneath a small waterfall. At last, they began to see the outline of the summit above them. Almost there, guys. We're making great time, Toto encouraged them. It was eerily quiet. Toto couldn't hear anyone else around them, only the distant call of a bird of prey. She glanced up again at the summit, but this time, along with a snow-capped peak, she just thought she could make out something. Something else, the shape of another animal silhouetted against the sun. Silver, look up there, I need your eyes. Her brother turned to look. Mamma mia, you're right, sis. This could be Venus. There's only one way to find out. Let's get a move on. The gang doubled their efforts and marched as fast as they could. But as they were nearing the final bend in the path, an eerie mist suddenly descended. They could hardly see their paws in front of their faces. I swear he was just there, said Silver, as they reached the top of the mountain. A small, flat peak shrouded in mist. Where? You mean over here, said Catface, trying to be helpful. He rushed over to the far side of the plateau to look around. But in his haste, he lost his footing and slipped, tumbling over the edge of the mountain and dragging his three companions with him. Tethered by the rope, Socks and Silver hurtled behind over the edge. Toto was quickly being dragged off the mountain too. She reached out with a claw, and just as she was about to follow her brothers into the abyss, dug a little nail into the side of the mountain and clung on for dear life. The claw held, but only just. Toto could feel the ropes around her ankles coming loose. Quick, grab hold of each other, she yelled. The ropes won't last much longer. She looked down and she could make out the shapes below, where her two brothers and Catface had managed to cling on to one another and were suspended in the air. She could certainly hear their screams. All that was saving them from falling to their doom was Toto's single claw. Even with her ninja strength and training, she knew she couldn't hold on for much longer. She felt around with her other paw for anything to grab onto, but there was nothing. She slowed down her breathing, trying not to panic. She needed to conserve her energy and work out what to do. She knew she could hold on for maybe a couple of minutes, but after that, maybe she could get Catface to climb up over the others and help pull her out. She was trying to come up with some kind of plan when she just heard a movement above. Hello? Help! She cried out, but there was nothing but silence. Then, just as all hope was gone, a paw suddenly appeared through the mist. She didn't know who it belonged to, but she didn't care. With all her might, Toto launched her free paw and grabbed on tight. Surely there was no way, whoever it was, could support all four of them was there.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. My God, that's amazing! Hey, nice to see you. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, that's right. You can go on in. That's fine.
That's right.
Everything's great.
Oh, don't worry.
It's been 4 years.
I literally just come in.
Oh, signing it. I don't know if you're supposed to sign that, is it?
Yeah. Nothing much. I've just been the acting tables on my YouTube channel. And most recently, the new in Houston, a biopic by one of the musicians from the song of the same name.
Yeah. And what are you doing with that? Are you doing something, or what's the Whitney Houston stuff?
Basically,
It's fine. I've got to wait. Where is she? It's getting so long to queue. Actually, she's coming now. Wheel 'em in.
Ellie Styles. Have you watched the film yet?
No, I haven't.
Got your name on your
Really good, yeah.
Lots of twists and turns.
Oh, yeah.
But then the other hand, so is Alex.
Oh, you seem so rough.
Yeah, excuse me. Can
through, and I just want to ask you. So please can you step one step to the right?
Everything went on a little longer.
Come behind you.
Oh, how rude of me. Oh, it's okay.